for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I know we have plowed through some of this territory, but I think it's interesting as a member of the committee, but not of this subcommittee. It's been very educational. I do appreciate you being here, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate you letting me participate. But you've heard from both sides of the aisle what I'm about to say, and that is we have all been contacted by constituents. That's why I'm here today. I was contacted by a constituent who feels that the strong risk aversion at the FDA is creating at least the perception that it's slowing down or stopping the approval of new, innovative treatments for cancer and other life-threatening terminal diseases. And I, like some of the others who have spoken here today, and I'm not going to make you go through all the things you've already testified to, are very concerned that if you're facing a certain death, you're willing to take more risk, and you're wondering why the government's getting in the way. And so I would ask you first, you've already been over a number of things that the FDA is doing to try to make that process better, but have you given consideration to creating a waiver process where a consumer who is facing one of these diseases can waive liability and any concerns about a particular drug or biologic treatment or whatever in order to get that treatment when they're facing the consequences? Obviously, there has to be a disclaimer of all the either known or unknown risks involved. But have you all given consideration to doing something like that? Because thank God I've never had to face that and hope I never do. But there are a lot of folks out there, like the 41-year-old we heard about, and you've heard it from both sides of the aisle. Folks are willing to take those risks, particularly when they're younger and particularly if they have young children, as I do. You know, I would take those risks in a heartbeat if it was going to give me extra time with my kids. So I'm just wondering, have you thought about creating some kind of a waiver? Okay, this hasn't been approved, but I'm willing to take that risk. And if you haven't thought of that, would you? And then let me follow up with, and what other things is the FDA doing that you have not already testified to? Because I don't want you to, you know, have to be like a broken record and go over the things that you've already mentioned.
Well, you know, obviously this is such an important point, and it is something that goes to the very heart of what we do because, you know, our mission really is to try to get the best possible treatments to people who need them. And, you know, as we've already talked about, you know, we are putting an increasing focus on, you know, how we think about benefits and risks and weigh them. We already do accept, you know, a much higher tolerance for risk when you're talking about a disease that's serious, life-threatening, has no other treatments. I don't believe that we've, you know, really explored the exact proposal that you put forward, and I think it would certainly require broader discussions than just within the FDA. And we do have some other programs. Compassionate use was mentioned for trying to get drugs to people that are in desperate, life-threatening situations. But, you know, perhaps, you know, in the interest of time and completeness, you know, we could provide you with some additional information about the programs that we're undertaking, and we certainly, you know, can continue to think about other strategies, including the one that you mentioned.
Well, and if you would, and you know, this is one of those things where sometimes folks just sitting around the table brainstorming might come up with one of those eureka moments and have an epiphany. Let me shift a little bit to another question that's come up in my district. I represent a rural district. There are many recognized off-label uses for approved drugs, but I'll pick up Dr. Cassidy's point. But I am told that the FDA severely restricts communications to doctors and patients about these uses. Representing a rural district, I have heard about doctors who find it difficult to get the information about off-label uses that could benefit many of their patients. So what can we do to better, both as the FDA and what can we do as Congress to help you better inform doctors, especially in rural communities, so they know about potential effective off-label uses of approved treatments?
Well, off-label use, as you note, is an important part of many medical practices, and FDA doesn't regulate the practice of medicine, and off-label use, is something that we we recognize is happening, and frequently I've talked with people within FDA about how we can really collect better information to understand off-label use so that it could inform the broader issues around the approved indications for the use of a drug. But I think that, you know, the biggest concern is when drug companies are actively marketing an unapproved drug for an off-label use, and that's where the controversies have been, you know, really focused on.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for your time. I yield back.
Chair, thanks, gentlemen, and recognize the gentlelady from California.